God's with fear, freedom we hold dear, now is that stay. Humble your heart to God, save from the chastening wrong. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christians away. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon.
Thanks for sharing your time with us. Today we got a very special guest. It's going to be a good, I'm going to be disappointed if it's not a good show. This ought to be a good show because we got the great Ben Hall from News Channel 5. Ben, glad to have you here.
Lyle, it is an honor. It really is. I'm used to asking the questions, so
and
I don't
it's
know
different.
how
It is different, yes. You've been here once before, though.
That's right.
And I do a real soft interview. See, you do a tough interview, but I do a soft interview.
That's why I came back.
And so I'm glad that you're here. And you've been a friend of Inner City. Not only are you the host of Issues of Faith at News Channel 5, you're an investigative reporter.
That's right.
But your most outstanding work is you're the MC of the Conquerors Luncheon for us. And that is...
I get more comments about that. Are you kidding? No, that is a great event every year. And
it's getting better.
This year, once again, it was another great event. Tons of people there at the convention center, and I love doing it every year. I'm glad you keep asking me.
Well, we want you to do it because it shows it's a Nashville ministry. Inner City ministry doesn't belong to me. It's Nashville's ministry. And at that event, you have Nashville. I mean, you have the mayor there. You have chief of police. I think we had most of the commanders. We had all the deputy chiefs of the police department. You had the sheriff there. And then the school board, a lot of them were there.
I was so impressed. The school board, exactly. All of law enforcement. And they get up and they talk about the difference that your organization, Inner City Ministries, is making in inner city Nashville. That these kids, this program, more than any other, gives them hope.
Harold Wells, Dr. Harold Wells, I know him as Harold, but he is, he came out of Settle Court right down the street from where we're at. Well, he's outside Settle Court, it's where he grew up. Good mom and daddy, good family, and grew up with us. And he got up and talked about the impact of the ministry on his life. And we hear that all the time. But I appreciate you hosting the event. You're a family man.
Family man, 2 kids, 2 boys, age 4 and age 2.
Boy,
Henry
that's a good years.
And Liam, Henry and Liam, and they are
now,
great.
Where did you get Liam?
Liam is Irish for William.
Is that right?
And you know
that had to come from your wife.
It did. It came from my wife. So, but we have lots of Williams in the Hall family. So we didn't want to necessarily just be Bill Hall. There's another famous Bill Hall.
Yes, yes. He was one of the more popular. Before Leland, he was the most popular weatherman in town. Then Leland came along.
That's right. And so we wanted something with a little more pizzazz. So Liam, L-I-A-M. And again, it's Irish for William. And so far, he likes it. We'll see. We'll see.
He's 2 years old.
Yes.
Yes, he responds to it anyway.
And what's funny is we wanted something a little different too. And in his daycare class, there is only one name that's repeated, and it's Liam. There are 2 Liams. There's a Liam H and like a Liam M.
Really?
But no, yes, there's not 2 Johns.
I've never heard.
In that, yeah. So it's
there's
a name.
2 in that class.
There are 2 Liams. It's a name that's gotten a little bigger.
I didn't know that.
It's coming on.
My name is Lytle, and I enjoyed it growing up because nobody else had that name. Because when a teacher called out Lytle, I knew they was talking about me. It's time to hide. I could get away. I had a head start, so I enjoyed that.
Every time a teacher would call out Ben, I thought they were saying Ben, and I would just wake up.
But you were a good student in school. You were a good child.
I was a good student. Minister's son, my dad, Presbyterian minister in Richmond, Virginia first, then in Atlanta. Presbyterian minister at Druid Hills Presbyterian Church in Atlanta. And I loved being a minister's kid.
And you know, I'm so proud to hear you say that, and I've said that before to you. Because my kids, you know, what do they call it, something about a preacher's kid. It's a PK kid.
PK.
Yeah. But you bring honor to it. You enjoyed it. Got a lot of attention, didn't you?
Well, I mean, I had my series of mental problems, there's no doubt. But you get a lot of attention. Yes, how can you not like that? So I would go to church and just be surrounded by love. I mean, everyone there, you know, they would ask how my week went, they would support me in this or that. And yeah, you're just the center of a lot of attention and the center of a lot of love, and I loved it.
Now, you support inner city ministry, and you know to some degree what our children go through. What you just said, Ben, you need to write a book about this. What you just said is what our children all too often are missing. because you went to church and people wrapped their arms around you. They asked about your week, made you feel important. I used to have an old boy as a volunteer here that worked with our kids, and his statement was, every child, and this is good for your boys, you need to know this, every child deserves their time on stage.
Right.
And it stuck. When I heard that, that really stuck. And what you just said, that flashed back up in my mind when you said that. Because people were genuinely interested in you.
Right.
My
and you
kids don't get that.
You don't need people to correct you or anything other than just ask, how are you doing? And what did you do this week? And what do you enjoy?
Why
and
is
then
it that we think we have to correct everybody?
I don't know. And during the course of the week, then you're thinking, okay, well, I know so-and-so cares, and I'm going to be able to report back to so-and-so that I did this. And it makes all the difference in the world. As a father, I don't know much of anything. We're in this, we've got 2 kids, very young kids, we're running around, we're barely, we're hanging on, we feel like all the time. But the one thing I feel like that I know is what you can give your kids is your time. You don't have to be brilliant. You don't have to
say that again.
You don't have to have some Cosby-like monologue that gives them the meaning of life. All you have to do is just be there. If you're just there, if you're just sitting there, then that makes all the difference. And a simple question like, how was your day?
Dr. Harold Wells that I introduced at the Conqueror's Luncheon, he and I did the police officer. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yes. The police officer. You've been in the news business too long. You don't show an expression, man. You're sitting there. If he has an
I'm waiting for the
reporter,
other shoe to drop.
You're looking for a line. You can jump on here. He and I spoke at the Brentwood Hills Church of Christ. Well, he spoke. I was there, and I interviewed him. And he challenged them because they're one of our learning centers. They're very involved financially in working with our children. And he said the same thing. Give these children, the inner city children, folks, y'all give them your time. Now I'm sitting over here, money, give me money, give me money.
Which is important,
yeah.
Very important.
But he said, because you get your time, you'll get everything else, you'll get your money. He said, give them your time. I think it's one of the greatest mistakes parents make is they allow television, and you're in the television business, don't turn off Ben Hall. He loves you to watch his show.
Watch Issues of Faith. And
but
any
that's right.
investigative
And turn off
report.
everything else. Turn off anything else. Yeah, I keep watching to see when you come up with a story. I won't talk about that in a little bit. But you can't allow television or social media. And the social media is going to make it more difficult on your children than the life you had to grow up in because, man, they can be sniped from anywhere.
I can't imagine. And yeah, screen time, we try to limit what we call screen time because it all is part of it. TV is one part, but computer time is another part. Mm-hmm. There's so many great things, there's so many learning opportunities, but also there's some, they need that person-to-person interaction. That can't be a babysitter. I mean, my minister, they gave some sermon one time about, there was a show and tell class at a school, and one kid got up and said, I guess they were talking about what their parents did or whatever. And one kid got up and said, well, my dad just bought a new car. And another kid got up and said, well, my dad just bought this, a new boat. And then another kid got up and said, well, my dad is here. And that was the one that got them all excited.
Yes.
Again, being there.
It's the simple things. Mm-hmm. I preach all the time and I teach all the time, and you've heard me say at the Conqueror's Luncheon probably. God gave us the family first. He gave us the church to save the family and the government to protect the family. But the family is God's small group. And what has happened, in my observation, I want to get your observation about America and Nashville and where you think we are, because you're in the know. My observation is families, because of whatever reason, have delegated their responsibility off to the church. And churches have delegated their responsibility off to the government. And it really puts the government in a position where the government can't function.
Right.
Because that wasn't the position of the government. The government should be taking care of, but be protecting families, not taking care of families.
Yeah, the government can't raise a kid.
Right. And when you fix the family, this is what the inner city ministry is trying to do. When we fix the family, we fix the problem. Now, your family may function different than my family. Your family may have different goals than my family. But that is the freedom that our Constitution gives us, that God's blessed us with, for your family. Your family can make your own choices. And I think that works. I think that's a formula, Ben, that will work. It'll work anywhere if we can just get people to get back to that formula. I think it'll really work.
And don't make it too hard. I mean, I think sometimes we overthink it. It is as simple as it's about the family. And what I'm saying there is, I feel like now parents feel like they have to script every moment with their kids. I'm reading some book about Dwight D. Eisenhower. He had 7 brothers and sisters. They lived in an 800 square foot house. I mean, can you imagine that? So they're not living some lavish lifestyle, but they're together. And if you can have that, that will just reap rewards. I mean, that's what it's all about.
I grew up poor. I didn't know I was poor.
Right.
And we had a house a little smaller than Eisenhower's, I think. But it was two boys.
2 of you, okay.
But I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, and this is what I'm trying to teach my guys at the inner city. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt. My parents had convinced me they loved me. Why, I don't know, but they had convinced me. And I think as parents, it's just not good enough to say I love you. You must, as a parent, convince your children. You got to do this to yours. Convince them that you love them. Once they know you love them, they're gone. They're out there.
Right.
They'll make it. They will make it.
That's what my dad said. My dad said, you know, people that wind up in trouble, he would visit people on death row, and you know, that's obviously your worst case, your biggest concern when you have a new baby. You know, boy, I hope he does well. Hope he doesn't mess up. I hope he, God forbid, doesn't wind up on death row or something just terrible. I mean, all these horrible things going through your mind. And he said, Ben, if you love him, if you were there for him, that won't happen. You know, the people that are there, they've had just terrible things happen to them. Now, you know, maybe in some cases that's not the case, but for the most part, if you were there, if you were supporting, if you were in his life, those things won't happen.
And that's what we need to challenge. I say all the time, churches need to get out of the church building and out in the community. Get Jesus out of the church building, out in the community where the people are, and healing can take place. And I think churches have got the answer to solving a lot of the problems that we have in our city. But getting out in the community and do what you opened up with. Spend time with children. And I'm big on this. Don't try to correct them all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody, as adults, we think we have to boss our children. I do this all the time. I tell them and tell my guys this. The rules change on you in life. You got 2 things in a day. At work, you got to be right. When you're at News Channel 5, you've got to be right. You just can't get up and shoot your mouth off. You've got to be right. But when you go home, the goal changes. Your goal now is not to be right, because you're married, brother. You ain't going to be right. You're married woman, you're not going to be right. Be happy. Make sure your home is a happy place. And boy, if it's happy, then you got your heaven on earth, and that works great. And I tell you what, those formulas will really work.
That's great. And church plays a role in that. You know, one of the things we talk about on Issues of Faith that is a concern of mine is that attendance is down at so many churches.
I've got one of the notes down here. Is faith gaining or losing or gaining?
That's a good note. And I ask that of many of the guests that come on Issues of Faith, and it's a struggle. Minister after minister is seeing, you know, this culture now doesn't put the emphasis it used to on church. And so how do we respond to that? You know, how do Christians respond to that? How do people of all faith respond to that? How do we bring people back into the church? We have to be meaningful in their lives. And before, you know, in the 50s, people just went to church. This is what you did. Now, there's so many competing things for people's time. How do we become relevant? And I think a big part of it is family. A big part of it is, you know, laying that foundation for your kids. You know, if I know that there's a great program for my kids at a church, that makes all the difference. And if it's a fun place, then that makes all the difference. And so that's one of the challenges. I ask every guest that comes on, you know, what are you doing about the fact that fewer and fewer people are going to church now? Just setting up a church and hoping people are going to come inside, it doesn't happen that way anymore.
You got to be involved in people's lives.
And you're seeing these mega churches now, and that's an interesting trend. And I have nothing against that, but what those churches sometimes do is they take away from other churches. And it's not that more and more people are going to church, it's that more people are going to just a few churches. And that's, you know, what do we do about that?
Finding there's, you know, and I'm not saying judge nobody. I'm big on don't judge anybody. Just go out and teach and love and serve and leave a judging up to God. If I'm sitting in God's seat when He comes home, you know, I'm in trouble. So I don't want to get into that. But I am finding our culture has presented a convenience. We are looking for, and convenience may not be the right word, but comfort zone. We don't like to be challenged by a comfort zone. I had a lady that worked for me up until she passed away, and her Dr. Ann Hudgens. She had a doctorate in psychology, and she was fighting cancer, and all these things was against her, and she still won't drive a bus. And so had a CDL, couldn't drive, but had a, she wanted to drive. And when her bus pulled in the parking lot, nobody was sitting next to the windows because she'd run over curbs and then bump her heads on the windows. So that's a sidebar. But doctor told me, she told me, I was one day telling her, well, why don't you just take off, you know, and why don't you rest a little bit? And she said, Lila, if you allow your, this is good, if you allow your comfort zone to dictate your life, it will get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it will strangle you to death. She said, that's what's happening to churches. They are trying to stay in their buildings and in their comfort zone. And that comfort zone becomes smaller and smaller if you don't bump up against it. But if you will bump up against that comfort zone and push it back, your comfort zone gets bigger, and then you have a lot more in your life.
That's fascinating.
And
yeah, that's a great personal thing, and it's great for churches as well. How do we reach out? You know, how do we minister to someone who would rather be at Starbucks, you know, at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning than be at church? And yeah, that is more comfortable. Today's world, we are so busy, we are so frantic. You know, who can blame someone for wanting to take some time just to relax on a Sunday morning? You know, how do churches minister to that type of person? How do we reach out and attract that person and make it a value-added sort of thing for them to come into a church? And those are the questions. Those are the questions my church is dealing with. You know, we're working on those very same things, and I think every church is.
But I think that's a very good question. I think you're going in the right direction. I have found success in the people of means, whatever that means, but the people who have resources. You're talking about going to Starbucks. You go to Starbucks. I walked into Starbucks talking to one of my secretaries one day, and I said, I'm going into Starbucks here. And she said, Lila, as cheap as you are, you about look at that board. She said, you about to turn around and walk out right now. And I said, why? I got it, thank you. I couldn't afford it. I turned around and walked back out.
So you walk right out of Starbucks.
No, I can get a cup of coffee with Buck over here at the service station. So man, give me my coffee and let me go. I can't taste anyway. And so you get my age, everything's been wore out. You don't worry about it. But the people of means, this is what I've seen, and I've witnessed this over and over. The people of means go help the people who don't have means. They become a servant to the poor. Let the rich be lifted up, that they are made lowly. Let them go and adopt. And one of the things that I've seen, and where I've seen the greatest results, is when a family adopts a family. And they take, and they don't take over the family. They don't try to boss the family, but they're there to assist, encourage a single mother that's got 3 or 4 or 5 kids. And the people that do that, boy, it gets expensive, you know, because they have desires, they have wants, and once you build a relationship and you start loving those children, you want them to have those things. And I think one of the greatest stories, and I may have told you this, I don't know, one of our girls was riding a bus out of one of the housing projects here in town and going to a church at one of our learning centers. And this happened several years ago. And on Christmas Eve in the housing projects, the heat went out in her building, her apartment. She had, and this little girl was like in probably about a 6, 7-year-old child. And it was cold Christmas Eve. She didn't, they called the office and we'll get to you day after Christmas. You know, wrong answer.
Right.
She didn't know what to do except to call her learning center teacher. And she called her, had her home number, which means this lady has got to be an angel, be passing out that home number.
That's great.
Called her, whose husband happened to own a big construction company here in town. She told him, it's Christmas Eve. These children don't have any heat. He picked up the telephone. Within an hour, there was all kind of service vehicles at that housing projects, at that unit. That little girl had a warm house on Christmas Eve. Now that is a family getting involved.
And that meant a lot to that little girl and her family that got
She'll
the warmth.
always remember it.
But it also meant, I bet, a lot to the family that was able to help, a lot to those crews that were able. I mean, that isn't a story on Christmas Eve that they're going out, they're helping a family, and it's something they're going to remember. And I think that's one of the things that people do yearn for, whether they know it or not.
That's right.
You know, they yearn for an opportunity to serve.
That's love.
And an opportunity to serve in a meaningful way. You know, when you give money, you know, you give money. And it's
to
easy,
inner-city ministry.
And sometimes it's easy enough to do.
It is.
But sometimes you never see the result of that. If you can go and really see the impact of the love you're giving, the service you're providing, you know, you benefit maybe more than the person who's receiving the help.
You do.
And I think that is what, that's what I want for my family.
That's
when
what
we're
churches
talking
have got
about,
to learn.
Yes, when we're talking about how do we get people back in, how do we get that person that's, opting to go somewhere else and just sit and read the paper and just kind of vegetate and relax and whatever. How do we bring them back into a church community? It is that opportunity to serve and to know that what they're doing is going out and making a difference, that they're going to go and they're going to help a family. It's not just give some money to something and they don't know what happens. It is to physically go and make a difference and see the results, and then see that their kids are benefiting from having been part of this, from having given to someone else.
See, sending chump change, as we call it, just sending little contribution out, can keep you in your comfort zone.
That's right.
But you go out and start serving a family. See, the question churches ask all too often is the wrong question. They ask how many was here today. That's the wrong question. The question should be, who is here today? Mm-hmm. Are the poor here? Are the heartbroken here? Is a sinner here? Are the people here that needs a spiritual healing? That's the question. Who and not how many is here. Mm-hmm. We need to talk about News Channel 5. Y'all sold.
We were just sold. And we're, that's always...
What does that mean?
Well, it's always an uncomfortable thing, but I can tell you this. We are very pleased by who has bought us. Journal Communications bought us. They are a serious, journalistically oriented company. They own a newspaper in Milwaukee. They own several TV stations around the country. They own some radio stations. We are now the biggest station that they own, and they have come and they have said, we are excited to be here. We think what you are doing in this community is something hopefully that they say they want to apply to stations that they own. And I feel very good about the fact that they have come in and they're saying the things they're saying, and they're gonna buy us. I think it's a good fit. I think they're going to continue many of the things we're doing now.
Well, I've known you for a few years now, and we don't hang out together. It ain't like we go play golf or out your house and all. But we have spent some time together, and I've never heard you say anything but good things about News Channel 5. You enjoy your work there.
I do, and I appreciate the fact that what I do now. I was there many years as a general assignment reporter, and that's when I was younger, and I was out covering a snowstorm. I was out at any fire. You're out all hours of the day covering any possible little thing. Now what I do is investigative reporting, and I love doing that.
That is pure news work right there.
It is news work. It is the essence of what news is all about, and it is a real service to the community that Channel 5 allows people like me and people like Phil Williams and Jennifer Krause and our team to look into stories, spend more than just a day on a story, and then report back what we found. Yeah. And I've said, I'm very proud of the stories we do and the ones you see on the air, but I'm also very proud of the stories that we've looked at and said, this isn't something we're going to pursue. So we really look things over, and I think the community should feel, we've got your back on some things. I mean, we're looking over some stuff.
And you do such a good job. And you've saved Nashville a lot of things, and you've saved the Middle Tennessee area. I mean, y'all have uncovered some serious stories. And I could tell in some of those you spent a lot of time going over receipts and checking books and going through all that. I told my bookkeeper, and I've told you this before, I want our books, Inner City Ministry, our books have got to be Phil Williams proof.
You've told me. and he's been looking over them, and he has a few questions.
He doesn't
have any. He has not looked over them.
You are, I'd be okay. Tell him come on down. He buys lunch when we get through. Are you drawn to this investigative reporting?
I am, because I think it is a way to do a story that has more depth. And so for many years, like I said, I did political reporting, and I loved that. I mean, I loved the horse race, and I loved covering that and presenting things. And what I did with that is you ask, one side one thing, you ask another side another thing, and you give each side equal time. And what I do now is I research enough to know, and then ask one side one thing and the other side the other thing. And when either of them says something that doesn't quite, meet the facts that I have seen, then I'm able to come back with, well, wait a minute. Before it's just you present your side, and the viewers decide. And now I'm able to research more, put more time into it, and say, well, wait a minute, what about this? It doesn't quite match the facts here.
That's pure journalism, isn't it?
And that's journalism.
That's what's dying in this country.
And it is, because it's somewhat expensive.
Media has lost a lot of respect among the American folks.
And I hate to see that. And it's a lot easier just to put something on TV that, you know, is a faux investigation. You know, it's something you can give it the title, but you haven't put the time and the work and the hours, you know, digging through everything. And you see that too much. But I really feel good about what we do.
I think you should. I was first exposed to the media in Saigon, and back in the '60s, and I think that's when it started getting corrupt. They would set us up. I was a military policeman, and they
Wow.
would set us up and come in and try to get us to do something wrong to where they get a story out of it. And it really, I mean, when I started inner city ministry, I had people come and talk to me about inner city. I wouldn't give them an interview. I wouldn't even talk to them because of my experience over there.
Wow.
And so after we got the ministry built and we had the product, and we could say, this is what a dream. This is reality. This is truth. This is, look for yourself. And then we started opening up and inviting people in.
In the end, people appreciate, you know, good reporting. You still, there'll be someone that, you know, will say, you know, we'll report on them, and they may still use, oh, it's just the biased media you can't trust. But in the end, the public's smart enough to see what the facts are. And I hate the polarization that you're seeing, and people now seem to watch news to reinforce opinions they already have, as opposed to learn new information. Yes. And that's more on a national scale than on a local scale. And I hate to see that, but I'm very proud of what, you know, is being done here locally.
Do you spend time in the dumpster going through looking for receipts? Who does that?
No, I don't. I haven't done that. No. Hopefully, the public records laws are so important, and there are people that say, oh, you know, we need to change these laws. These laws are there to protect us, and you could ask for information as easily as I could. It's journalists who most often ask for information, but we just make a request. You know, public documents. Please send me these documents. You know, this, and this. You have to be specific. But our public records laws in Tennessee, they're always under threat of being changed or adjusted in a way that would, I feel like, hurt the public. But for now, for the most part, they allow us access to things that we need to tell the stories.
We got 1 minute to go. No, we got 45 seconds to go. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your work at News Channel 5. And you tell the morning crew that I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And turn them on and see if any of my people have been hurt overnight that I don't know about. At 4:30, I'm back asleep. And I feel for that girl that drives in from Kentucky.
Amy Watson comes in every morning. Amazing. She drives all the way in.
And they're good, though.
They are the best.
Your morning team is
most
great.
highly rated morning program. They do a great job. They work hard, and they're up 4 in the morning? Yeah, it's amazing.
Ben, give my best to your wife and your kids, and thanks for coming and being a part of what we, and thank what you've done for this city.
Thank you.
We appreciate you and appreciate News Channel 5. Folks, thanks for tuning in. God bless. That's a good show.
Freedom we all hold dear, now is at stake. Humble your heart to God, save from the chastening rod. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christians away. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom. Trumpets will sound, and all of the dead shall rise. Righteous men in the sky. I'm going where no we're going down, heavenward bound. What troubles will soon be, or happy forevermore. When we meet on that shore, free from all care. Rising up in the skies, telling this world goodbye. Home when we